You've all just heard about the different ways that Medill teaches storytelling and presentations of stories in a multimedia world. Our session now is going to look at the ways that Medill dives deeply into different types of subject areas that you might cover and present as a journalist. And as I said earlier, some of my favorite people in the world are in this room, and here they are sitting at this table, so you'll get a chance to meet them. We're going to start with Tim McNulty, who's going to talk more about Medill's global programs. Tim, a former foreign editor for the Chicago Tribune, as well as many other accolades and experience. And please welcome Tim.
I was a journalist for 39 years, mostly involved in national and international reporting. I loved every minute of that. I loved being a reporter. I loved being a correspondent and an editor. But I especially loved dealing with stories and people overseas. I think it was so interesting to see the world through different eyes. And it was also, I have to admit, there is a romance about it that you just don't get anywhere else. Brad Ham, the dean, has talked about his kind of vision for having Medill students understand the world and have experiences. John talked about the various places that we've gone. And so I'm going to try to not repeat too many of those, although maybe give you a little idea of what people were doing in those places. I'm going to start at the other end, the optional fifth quarter, to just deal with that, with the global residency, and I'll talk about that later this afternoon. And also for the National Security Journalism Initiative, which I'm the co-director of, but my colleague Ellen Shearer will talk about that. So some of the things I'd like to, and that's the optional fifth quarter. So I'd like to just talk about in the last couple of years, things that have experiences and places that people have gone and what they've done. Most recently, during spring break, the students, as you heard, went to Pakistan. They went to Managua, Nicaragua, to Buenos Aires, and to South Africa. There are also, throughout the years, partnerships with other programs with the European Union. There are some smaller funded and reporting trips abroad to Bolivia to report on child labor, to Japan. This one I never understood, to report on female breakdancers. Okay. There are grants in specialized programs, the nanotechnology in Germany, maternal health in Nicaragua, rock formations in Mexico, and telescopes in Chile. Last, you heard about the Uganda documentary. Last year, and again this year, I took a group of students to Israel for kind of a 2-week immersion into the issues and the culture, the people, both Israelis and Palestinians, and to try to get a sense of what that country, which plays so much a part of our news and Middle East politics and U.S. foreign policy, to what that is about. And I think that that's the kind of projects that Medill wants to provide. Things that make you think, that help you kind of dive deeper, and like I said, things that will help you see the world through other people's eyes, not such an American-centric view, and that's really wonderful to have. I think I'll stop there.
in science and environmental reporting, and Abigail Foerstner will share about that program.
Good morning. We're so happy that you're here with us today. And I'm going to start out with a question for you. How many of you are here and hope to go into journalism, or are in journalism and now hope to come into an innovative program to take journalism in new directions? How many of you want to do that to help make the world a better place through your stories? Okay. A lot of you. And so many of the programs at Medill, so many of these reporting specializations we're talking about will enable you to do that. And certainly health, environment, and science reporting is one of them. You don't need to be a scientist to come into this program. What you do need is the curiosity and willingness and commitment to know that making science and health and environmental information accessible to people in our world is critical. These are decisions that may be life and death for people, decisions that tell us about the most fascinating aspects of the universe. Tim mentioned those telescopes in Chile, and a health and environment and science reporter went down to Chile to look at a telescope that is loaded with the largest digital camera in the world, made at the Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory. And that camera is in a search for dark energy. Dark energy doesn't give off any light, so we can't see it, we don't know what it is. But we know that it's a force that makes up most of our universe and is believed to be the cause for the acceleration of the expansion of the universe. Pretty cool stuff. And we teach you how to make that real, how to make that accessible to people. What are some of the other stories we're working on? We look at the new kinds of DNA manipulation that will literally turn off the trigger that allows cancer cells to duplicate. Last summer and fall, when everyone was looking at the spread of the Ebola virus, and though we had only a handful of cases here, there were huge decontamination units sucking up just millions and millions of dollars in money. And one of our health and science reporters realized that under the radar screen, while there were only a handful of Ebola cases here, hundreds of children were getting measles. The CDC was reporting a record measles outbreak since we had considered this disease eradicated, and the reason was because of a bogus study in the 1990s that had linked vaccines and autism. And the fallout from that study still continued to make people fearful of getting vaccines. So our reporter reported on that measles outbreak and the importance of getting the vaccines and the reasons behind some other illnesses where there were new outbreaks as a result of the vaccine scare. We worked on a wildlife story. In this case, one of the inmates at the Cook County Jail was a coyote that managed to get into the yard. But as you know, once you get into jail, kind of hard to get out again. We also looked at the fact that Cook County Jail had become the mental health hospital of last resort, and that one of the largest mental health communities in the country is in that jail, because people who aren't on meds or aren't getting treatment may land in situations where they end up incarcerated and they need treatment. So just a few of the stories that we're working on, just a few of the ways that you make information accessible to people, so that your friend, your grandmother, your significant other can understand that highly technological story. We look at a lot of technology stories. We look at a lot of consumer technology. We look at the concussions issues in sports. While some of the sports reporters are looking at some of these same issues, obviously there are different frames to take these stories. Our reporters become comfortable to take very technical studies and parse them out and really be able to evaluate whether the study involved 10 people over the course of 2 weeks or 10,000 people over the course of 10 years. A much better study for for us to be basing information on that might affect the health decisions that our community is making. We have a lot of good sources in this area. We have research institutions throughout this area. The Electronic Visualization Laboratory is one of the cutting-edge places on 3D imaging. The Foerstner Lab is in a search for the building blocks of the universe, and there are health and medical laboratories throughout this area. But students also have lots of global embedded reporting opportunities. And we are looking for opportunities for them to go to the Nanotech Institute in Germany, to go to the Yucatan coast and look at the degradation that's occurring both because of climate change and because of development. Students have gone out with the tornado chasers in Oklahoma, and they've gone to a language institute in New Zealand that look at just how facial expressions are such a big part of language. So students take the world and find the most fascinating parts of it, find the scariest parts of it, and help convey that information so that anyone can understand it. And so that those stories are compelling, and so that those stories are conveyed in all media. Students go on from our health and science program. They work for National Labs, they work for Slate, they work for Atlantic.com, they work for the HuffPost, they work for all media across the board, NPR, you name it. And there are Medill alums in many of these places. The new editor, Discover Magazine, is from our health and science program. So we're making sure you come away from Medill with a portfolio that you can bring to editors and to the dream jobs and dream careers that you're looking for. I'm an alum of Medill. I wrote on health, environment, and science, and on the arts for the Chicago Tribune for years. The innovation and opportunity and creativity that you'll find here are truly unique. But one thing that you'll still find here are those foundations of journalism that people are looking for in today's media. Accuracy, great sourcing, great reporting, and fairness. We stress a lot of fact-checking and a lot of fairness checking at Medill. And those foundations, with all the innovation, with all the discovery, with all the creativity, those foundations haven't changed since I was here. And I'm very, very proud of that, and proud that we can share that with the new generation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abigail. By any chance, anybody in this room have any interest at all in money? Maybe making it, having it, spending it. All right. So you should listen to Desi Hanford, who's going to tell you about business reporting at Medill.
Okay, John just stole my thunder.
Oh, that's right.
So I was going to say, how many of you like money? Raise your hand if you like money. Really? The rest of you don't like money? Then come see me. I will gladly take what you have. How many of you like making money? Want a good job to make money? How many of you like spending money? All right. Okay, good. I would put myself in that same category. That's great, because money is business reporting, and business reporting is money. It's not just the stock market, it's not just the bond market, it's not just the commodities markets. It is money. And money makes the world go round. We all need it to survive. Humans need it. You know, we earn it through our salaries, we spend it on clothes, we spend it on cars, we spend it on tuition, we spend it on a lot of things. And municipalities earn it through fees and taxes and fines, and they spend it on roads and bridges, and making sure that, you know, flowers can be planted. And companies earn it by selling goods, whether it's Amazon selling anything that you could possibly want, or Hershey's selling you some chocolate. And they spend it on labor and other things. And sports teams and entertainment companies are involved in money too. And if you follow the Cubs, know that there is a certain third baseman who is coming up to join the Cubs today, and he wasn't with the Cubs for the first couple weeks of the season because of how his contract is structured. And it has to do with money. So money does make the world go round. There are guideposts, there are markers that we can see all the time to tell us how we're doing on handling our money. For us as individuals, it may be how much we're putting in our retirement, or whether we're paying off our credit card bills. For municipalities, it's whether or not they're meeting their pension requirements and putting money away so that when people retire, they have money to spend in their retirement. And if it's companies, it's a question of whether or not they're selling the products and the services that they need to sell in order to turn a profit. And it's also a question of whether our economy here in the US and globally is expanding or whether it's shrinking. So we all need money. We all need it to survive. If we don't have money, we'll find ourselves bouncing checks, going to the ATM machine and looking to see what our balance is and keeping our fingers crossed. Companies, municipalities may find themselves in bankruptcy, or they may find themselves being acquired. So it really does make the world go round. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you need to be a rocket scientist to be a business reporter. And you don't. You don't need to know algorithms. You don't need to be a forensic accountant. You need to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And if you can do those 4 things, and I know you all can, you can be a really good business reporter. I'll show you how to put them all together and make them sing. But you have to be curious, and you have to like to tell stories. You have to be able to take numbers and tell stories in a way that people want to hear them, want to see them, want to read them. And that can be a challenge sometimes, because if we don't do it in the right fashion, people's eyes will glaze over and they will walk away. But done the right way, it can impact people's decisions. You can see the stock market go up and down. You can see certain stocks move up and down. You can help someone save for their retirement. You can help someone save to buy a house. You can give them a heads up on some headwinds that are coming. It's a great, great area of journalism to be in. What types of stories do you cover? Everything from unemployment to whether a company is making money or losing money. What's going on ethically? Is there a company that might be doing something wrong? Maybe might have to do some investigative work. Some stock market movements, some personal finance. Everything comes into play. It's human beings, because there's money and then there are humans. And it's how humans interact with that money that you're telling a story when you're doing business reporting. And here at Medill, we'll help you understand that and accomplish that. We'll help you understand money. We'll help you understand the stock market, how companies work and how they don't work, why they make money and how they don't, how the economy works, and how, quite frankly, they all interact. All the learning doesn't happen in the classroom. You are actually in one of the prime financial spots in the U.S. right now. A few blocks from here is the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, and down below, way down below, there are millions of dollars that you're standing on. Looking for some money, good luck. It's guarded, you've got cameras all over. But it's a great place to go. It's a wonderful place to learn about the Federal Reserve System, which to most people is not at all transparent. In fact, to the media, it wasn't all transparent for a long time. But you'll go to the Reserve Bank here in Chicago. Bloomberg, one of the world's largest financial media outlets, has a bureau a few blocks away from here. Medill is fortunate to have a very strong relationship with Hanford, and so we leverage that. The Chicago Board of Options Exchange, in fact, one of my colleagues is taking a group of students there right now, is here in Chicago. We go visit them as well. And then there are conferences. We have sent students to what's called SABRE, which is the Society of American Business Editors and Writers. They have conferences all over the U.S. We've sent students to Phoenix, to New York. It's actually going to be here in Chicago next week. And our students not only attend those conferences, but they cover those conferences. And who else is attending those conferences? CEOs of companies, publicly traded companies, private companies, economists, other business reporters. It's a great place to network. There are plenty of jobs and internships in business reporting, and quite frankly, they're pretty good paying jobs and internships. The Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Cranes, the Financial Times, CNBC, magazines, in TV, documentary, in video. The skills that business reporters have, being able to understand money, is in demand. And if you don't like working weekends, business reporting is great, because most of the time you don't have to work weekends, or holidays, for that matter. So I hope you'll consider business reporting. It's a lot of fun. I was a business reporter for 10 years for Dow Jones, and I have to tell you, it was the last place I thought I would find myself. I wasn't at all comfortable with numbers. I took some, the required economics classes as an undergrad. I knew kind of what was in my checkbook, but didn't always want to look to see what was in there. And I found myself in love with it. I really did. And I think if you give it a glance, give it a look, you may find yourself in love with it too, because it permeates all of our lives, the world around us, no matter what we're looking at that moment. So, welcome, good luck, it's great to see you, and I hope to see you in coming quarters. Thank you.
So if you get to know me for a while, you'll find out there's 4 things I really care about in life. Medill, my family, my faith, and the Chicago Cubs. Actually on May 15th, everyone in Medill's MSJ program is going to be spending an afternoon at Wrigley Field at a Cubs game and soaking in that true Chicago experience. But Medill in sports goes much deeper and further than that, and Charles Whitaker is with us to talk about Medill's program in sports.
Good afternoon. Sports is actually our newest reporting concentration at Medill. For many years, when I was a student at Medill back in the Paleozoic era, we believed that just learning the foundations of good writing and reporting was enough, and that you could go out and specialize in sports later on. We actually didn't believe in having a concentration in sports, and many of my great mentors in Medill would be rolling over in their graves at the thought that we actually have started this concentration. However, our alums, and we think we produce more alums, more sports writers and reporters and communications specialists than any other school. That's our story, and we're sticking to it. I think there's some empirical evidence to back that up. Our alums have been after us for many, many years to create concentration. They just feel that the combination of our strong writing, reporting, videography, training, with allowing students to delve deeply into their passion of sports reporting is just an unbeatable combination. And even though we've only been at this a year, we are finding that it is a really potent combination. The students who are going through this program are enjoying the experience, and we are doing some amazing and wonderful things, which I'll tell you about in a second. We consider this program co-curricular. That means that there are classes that exist that you can take that enable you to delve deeply into sports, but a lot of what goes on in this program actually happens outside of the traditional classroom setting. For example, we pair every student, and every student who will enter in the summer and fall cohort has the opportunity to join what we call the sports immersion group or club. You simply say that you have an interest in doing this. We ask you to fill out an application. We get a sense of what your interests and goals and objectives are. And that means, following that, we will pair you with a mentor. One of our many alums, we have a network of about 65 alums who have agreed to be mentors in this program. That mentor is someone that you can turn to in addition to faculty for guidance and counsel, for help with stories, just someone, your buddy, if you will, in the Medill network, the Medill Mafia, as we like to say, who will sort of be out there to guide and shepherd you. A great example of how that has worked is last year we paired a student with Adam Schechter, who just happened to be a student whose last name was Schechter, and both of them went to Michigan as undergrads, and Adam was really able to guide and counsel Lee, got Lee a job at the Boston Globe once he finished. Those are the kinds of connections that we want to happen as part of this program. In addition, we want to expose the students who are in the sports immersion program to all sorts of activities and careers outside of just traditional sports reporting. So we took a trip for spring break to Orlando, where we not only met with the editors of the Orlando Sentinel, we went to the Golf Channel, which has one of the most amazing studios, television studios, but also a vast network of writers and reporters who work for their website. But we also met with an alum named Matt Repchek, who was the Chief Information Officer of the Citrus Bowl, and he's considered one of the best sort of stadium marketers in the country. He's a Medill, MSJ, BSJ. And he took them through a wonderful exercise sort of talking about and thinking about how his undergraduate and graduate training in journalism sort of helps him to be a fantastic marketer for the Citrus Bowl, and how he thinks about how reporting and writing undergird everything that he does every day. This, in about 2 weeks, we will take 15 students to ESPN, where we have, I think, about 19 alumni working both as producers as well as on-air personalities. We will do a tour of those facilities. We will have sessions with some of the on-air personalities. We get to watch Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick. We'll watch the taping of their show in the morning. Mike Greenberg is also an alum. We'll talk to them a little bit afterwards about how that show comes together, and we'll have a dinner that evening with alums also. Again, students have a chance to have one-on-one interactions with students who are working with professionals who are working at ESPN. Currently, as we speak, we have another co-curricular activity. We have a group of about 22 students who are building and preparing a website that we will use to showcase the NFL draft, which will be in Chicago for the first time in 50 years. So in addition to their classwork, these students are preparing to cover the draft. We have credentials for the auditorium theater, so 4 students will be embedded in the auditorium as the draft picks are announced. They have something, this is a huge extravaganza in Chicago. It's going to take place both in the auditorium and Grant Park. We have credentials for students. For some students who will be in Grant Park, they're going to march the draft picks across Michigan Avenue into the auditorium. I have no idea how this is going to work. But we have students who have credentials to cover that. And in addition, Medill is going to host, we'll have the opening event of the draft. I can't tell you much more about. But the Wednesday before the start of the draft, one of our newest professors in practice, Christine Brennan, who's a USA Today columnist, will be hosting a very special event that's sort of the kickoff for the NFL draft. It will actually take place at Medill in the MFC Forum. You guys will be having lunch tomorrow, the day before, the afternoon before the draft. So stay tuned, you will hear about that. In addition, we have just a number of panels. We bring alums in quite frequently to speak with students. Last night, as part of the draft project, the last time the draft was in Chicago was 50 years ago. 3 Northwestern football players were actually drafted in that draft. We had them come and speak to the NFL draft students who were covering the draft, sort of talking about the difference between their draft experience and the draft experience of today. One of the differences is the contract that they signed were for $13,000. Rookies now, the minimum contract is $600,000. So they also said they both found out that they were drafted in the newspaper. There was none of this kind of law. Somebody came up to them the next day and said, "Hey, I read the newspaper. You were drafted." And they were like, "Yeah, really?" Then they went to class. But that is sort of the sports program here. We do have courses. Again, we have a sports reporting class. We have a sports marketing class. But it's sort of more than classes. It really is a way for you to pursue your passion in sports, whether that is reporting, possibly marketing, and sort of look at the world of sports reporting and communications and take a deep dive in that while you're here and involved in the building. There will be students on the panel this afternoon who are part of the sports immersion program. We'll probably have other opportunities to interact with students who are in the program. We have students across the 3 cohorts that are here who are involved. Feel free to ask any of them. I will be around, but we'd love to have you sort of join the Medill Sports Mafia. Thanks. I've been reminded to mention that Mike Wolbon and Christine Brennan are our 2 new professors of practice who joined the program. Thank you.
commitment to social justice is a core value of the program, telling the stories of people whose lives are not usually covered by the news and by the networks. And we have a very strong social justice initiative program here, and Louise Kiernan will tell us about it.